Oil. The very word evokes images of gushing derricks, sprawling refineries, and the ceaseless hum of machinery. And tankers navigating vast oceans. It fuels our cars, powers our industries, and lights up our cities, and underpins the intricate web of global commerce. The global economy is intricately tied to this precious resource. From the humblest household to the mightiest nation, our dependence on this viscous, energy-rich fluid is undeniable. It is the silent force driving our daily lives. Its discovery marked a turning point in human history, propelling us into an era of unprecedented technological advancement and economic growth. The Industrial Revolution owes much to this black gold. Yet this reliance on oil comes at a cost. Environmental degradation, climate change, and geopolitical tensions are just a few of the challenges we face. Control over oil reserves translates into immense economic and political power. Nations have risen and fallen over the control of this resource. The question of who controls the world oil market is thus not merely an academic exercise but a geopolitical puzzle with far-reaching consequences. It affects global stability and economic policies. It's a question that has preoccupied policymakers, economists, and energy analysts for decades, shaping international relations, sparking conflicts, and driving the global economy. The stakes are incredibly high. Understanding this intricate web of control requires delving into the historical forces that have shaped the industry, tracing its roots and evolution, examining the key players vying for dominance, from multinational corporations to powerful cartels, and analyzing the complex interplay of market forces and geopolitics. The dynamics are ever-changing and highly volatile. The story of oil is one of booms and busts, of fortunes made and lost, of alliances forged and broken, and of shifting power dynamics, and of relentless competition for a resource that has come to define our modern world. The quest for oil has driven innovation and conflict alike. From the early days of wildcatters and oil barons to the rise of powerful cartels and the emergence of new technologies, the pursuit of black gold has been a constant in the global narrative. It is a saga of ambition, power, and transformation. This essay delves into the heart of this narrative, exploring the forces that shape the world oil market and the implications for the future of energy. As we look ahead, the quest for sustainable alternatives becomes ever more critical. The early 20th century witnessed the rise of legendary figures who turned the discovery of oil into vast fortunes, forever changing the industrial landscape. These pioneers of the oil industry were not just businessmen. They were visionaries who saw the potential of oil to fuel the engines of progress in industry. Their influence extended far beyond the oil fields, shaping the economic and political landscapes of their time. Names like John D. Rockefeller and the Mellons became synonymous with wealth and power. Their empires built on the back of this new energy source that was rapidly transforming the world. These men were not just industrialists, they were symbols of the American dream, embodying the spirit of innovation and the relentless pursuit of success. Rockefeller in particular, with his Standard Oil Company, came to epitomize the era of the oil baron. His company was not just a business, it was an empire that dominated the oil industry and set the standard for corporate success. Through ruthless business tactics, strategic acquisitions, and an almost insatiable thirst for control, Rockefeller consolidated his grip on the American oil industry. His methods were often controversial, but they were undeniably effective, allowing him to build a monopoly that was unparalleled in its scope and influence. His company, at its peak, controlled nearly 90% of U.S. refining capacity, dictating prices, controlling pipelines, and wielding immense influence over the entire supply chain. This level of control allowed Standard Oil to operate with a level of efficiency and profitability that was unmatched by any of its competitors. The Standard Oil monopoly became a textbook example of vertical integration, with the company controlling every aspect of the industry from exploration and production to refining, transportation, and distribution. This comprehensive control allowed Standard Oil to minimize costs and maximize profits, setting a precedent for future industrial giants. This era of unbridled capitalism and unchecked monopolies eventually sparked a backlash. The public began to see the dangers of allowing a single company to wield so much power, leading to growing calls for regulation and reform. Public outcry over the unchecked power of Standard Oil and its ilk led to the antitrust movement, culminating in the landmark breakup of the company in 1911. This was a pivotal moment in American history, marking the beginning of a new era of regulation and oversight. While the dismantling of Standard Oil marked a turning point, it did not diminish the significance of oil or the influence of major oil companies. The industry continued to grow and evolve, with new companies emerging to take the place of the old giants. It merely transitioned the industry from a period of concentrated control by a few powerful individuals to a more fragmented landscape, with the emergence of new players and the rise of national oil companies. This shift paved the way for a more competitive and dynamic oil market, setting the stage for the modern energy industry we know today. The mid-20th century witnessed a seismic shift in the global oil market with the formation of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, in 1960. This was a pivotal moment in the history of global energy, as it marked the beginning of a new era where oil-producing nations sought to assert their influence and control over the oil market. Comprising some of the world's largest oil-producing nations, primarily in the Middle East, OPEC sought to wrest control from the Western oil companies that had dominated the industry for decades. These companies, often referred to as the Seven Sisters, had long dictated the terms of oil production and pricing, leaving the producing nations with little say in their own resources. By banding together, these nations aimed to leverage their collective control over the majority of the world's proven oil reserves to influence prices, production quotas, and their own economic destinies. This newfound unity allowed them to negotiate more favorable terms and assert their sovereignty over their natural resources. OPEC's influence became starkly evident during the 1973 oil crisis. This event not only highlighted the cartel's power but also exposed the vulnerabilities of the global oil supply chain. Following the Arab-Israeli War, OPEC imposed an embargo on oil exports to the United States and other nations that supported Israel. This strategic move was a direct response to geopolitical tensions and showcased OPEC's ability to use oil as a political weapon. The embargo sent shockwaves through the global economy, causing oil prices to skyrocket, leading to fuel shortages, and triggering a recession in many Western nations. The crisis underscored the interconnectedness of global economies and the critical role of oil in modern society. The crisis demonstrated the cartel's ability to act in unison and exert significant leverage over the global energy market. It was a clear indication that OPEC could influence not just the oil industry, but the broader economic and political landscape as well. OPEC's actions also had profound geopolitical implications. The oil embargo and subsequent crises forced nations to reconsider their foreign policies and alliances, particularly in relation to the Middle East. The oil embargo highlighted the vulnerability of Western nations reliant on imported oil, particularly from the volatile Middle East. It became evident that energy dependency could be a significant strategic weakness. It also underscored the strategic importance of energy security and the need to diversify energy sources. This realization spurred investments in alternative energy and efforts to improve energy efficiency. The cartel's emergence marked a turning point, signaling a shift in power from Western oil majors to oil-producing nations, particularly those within OPEC, who now held significant sway over the global energy landscape. This shift has had lasting impacts on international relations, economic policies, and the global energy market.